This week, we're talking how a change of season in your life can leave you unsettled and disorientated, as though you're standing at some sort of cliched crossroads, perplexed at what direction to take. Hi there, welcome to the Lovoni and Sarah Health and Wellness Podcast. I'm Lovoni.
And I'm Sarah. Maybe it's a divorce, a move, your baby leaving the nest, or suddenly find yourself out of a job. Perhaps it's an age milestone birthday making you question your life and the direction it's taking. How can we embrace these big changes and go confidently and boldly into a new cycle?
Before we do a deep dive into this episode, let's touch on last week's episode, which was about finishing the year strong.
The challenge was, what have you done today to create a commitment to yourself? Our challenge was to take 2 steps each day towards improvement so that we can end the year strong, positively, and confidently. Did you commit to it, Livoni?
I did, but first I've got to say, even though this is out on Monday, like in November,
Yes.
we're actually recording it on Halloween. So Sarah's got, hence the really
Halloween
gorgeous
stuff.
Yeah, and I've got, part of my witch's attire on, which I will be wearing tonight with my, witchy dress, which I really quite like, I have to say. My hat that I can't fit on over my headphones. Sadly, I just walk around the house for the rest of the day with it on.
We've
yeah,
got
so
candles,
that's why I just wanted
we've
to
got
say
houses, pumpkins. Yeah, we've got it all.
We're just embracing Halloween. So anyway, even though it's not out on Halloween, that's why I am, you can't see the front of me, but I'm all sort of laced up.
Nice.
So just in case at any time you do and wonder,
you go check back and go, what is going on?
And the sleeves, I'm going to cook in this
fabulous.
tonight.
Yeah, well, you do be careful.
I don't set fire
I'm worried,
to myself.
Exactly.
Shut myself in the oven door or something.
Yeah.
Okay, so
your commitment.
My commitments. So it was 2 things a day, right? But on it, like consistent, or they can change. I don't think you said that. So working out each day, and that could be anything from like weights, bike, walking. It's usually a combo of those. And when I find myself doing something that's always been detrimental to me losing weight, which is God, how can I do this faster?
Right.
What mad thing can I choose now to set me on the road to just like, yes, and inevitably not getting it done, which is what happens. So being aware of that, if ever that thought crossed into my mind, I kept saying to myself, nope, just remember. So my 2 things are working out and back to basics, which we did an episode on. And just reminding myself about that: water, sleep, movement, nutrition, small portions, and not letting other people's shit get me. That is important too. Just, like Sarah sent me a great birthday card that said basically, not my fucking problem.
Not your fucking problem.
Not my fucking problem. Yeah. So that's what I've reminded myself of.
Yeah.
But anyway, those 2 things. So I have done them.
Good.
Yeah, religiously, and not I quite enjoyed them. Yeah, I have to say.
Yeah.
What about you?
I have ensured that I've made some time to do something fun every day. And something that I've been wanting to do for ages. So, for example, this week I've done some crafting that I've had on my to-do list for absolutely ages. And one of the things is I have decorated and produced my said pumpkin behind me.
And sorry, I have to interrupt you and say, it sounds like Sarah has time on her hands. She actually doesn't.
Oh, no, I don't.
She's incredibly busy. So I'm very impressed. Anyway, sorry, go on. Yeah.
And I've made a lovely autumnal wreath for my door from picking my own dried hydrangeas from the garden.
Yeah, send it to me and I'll share it. And the pumpkin, yes. I'll share it on our on our stories.
Okay.
Our posts. Yeah.
So that's one of my sort of steps each day. And my other one is I've been really working on clearing some areas and some space of sort of clutter and making a bit of progress on that. So I've just chosen a really small area and just got something done every single day. So that's felt really satisfying because it just feels like I'm moving towards this overall goal. It might even be 10 minutes that I've spent doing it, but just getting stuff done. So, and I've also stuck my little note on my screen like I said I was going to do, and we talked about, and I've actually got 2, but one of them says, what have you done to help move towards your goal today? So just get that daily reminder that just says, what have you done to help you move
What
forward?
have you done to commit to yourself today?
Yeah. So it's good. I think it's.
What does your other note say? Do I want to know? No, you don't have to tell me.
It's along the same vein.
Okay. Oh, that's good. Okay, that's good. Yeah. This episode about, a change of season, I know that this is like a big thing for you, having just had, your son go off to college.
Yeah.
And, you're doing a few different things with your business and everything as well. But some people, I think, really struggle with change. Don't you think?
Well, I did. I mean, I can empathize with that. I found myself in exactly that opportunity of moment, if I took to describe it as that, because, as I've talked about before, it's just been me and my son at home for 16 years. And so him now being at university, not living here full time, has made a huge impact. And I found myself in a very different position of thinking, okay, what am I going to do? Because in all honesty, it's very emotional, but all of my being and my thought has been about him when he was here.
Getting him through school.
People, and getting him organized, getting him through school, getting him through driving, getting through college, then getting ready to go traveling and uni. It's big. And as anyone that knows me, I put my 100% of myself and more into everything that I do, and that is included in him. And so now I've enabled him with this next step, and I have to take a huge step back, because what I've done is given him all of the tools that he needs. He'll still need me, but in a different way. So there was a moment where you can feel a huge gap, a huge space that feels very empty and very strange, alien and low, because you're thinking, so what's my purpose now?
Right.
My purpose has been,
now what?
Yeah. And you can feel very sad about that, which I think I did for, a bit of time, and the emotion that came with it. But then I also then found myself into, okay, this is an opportunity. And I'll talk about this a bit more in a minute, but I haven't framed it as an opportunity to do a complete 180 of going, right, well, I can completely transform my life and I can do this, that, and the other. The way that I'm approaching it is going, what can I add? What can I add in? I don't need to completely change direction, but I can add a lot in. So that's how it's working for me, and how I cope with it, I suppose, and the emotions around it. And I think that topic could be the same for anyone that finds themselves in a new season. I want to let you talk, but I've also got a description of some things which I think might help with seasons. But are you in a particular sort of new phase, you think, at the moment?
No.
Okay. You're just in a settled position.
I'm a good person to interview. No, well, a little bit, because next year's a milestone for me. I feel like I'm between them, because I think when I lost both my parents in 22, that to me wasn't just huge. Like a chapter. That was huge. That was like, a new book. I'd never. It felt weird being, okay, now I'm an orphan. My sister and I are orphans. And I felt that was a new time. But at the moment, for me, I have a plan and I'm just working it.
Okay. Well, this might help then. Okay. So we can talk more about how we deal with these seasons and how we find ourselves in it. But I think this will be really helpful. So I was doing some sort of reading, some research, and I found this really, really useful about describing the seasons that we find ourselves going through. And that's a really useful point. Number one is that we call them a season because we're moving through them. There's a flow and a change. Okay. And actually there is if you really look, there is a cycle that I think we all go through. So these changes, they come round again and we find ourselves in a similar situation. But this I thought was really, really useful. So what it did was almost liken it to the 4 seasons that we all know, as in seasons outside. And what each of those seasons brings, the opportunity it brings, but how we find ourselves in them. So first of all, the autumn is where it sort of starts, which is actually quite relevant, as that's where we're finding ourselves now. But that season is described as sort of frustration, worry, finding ourselves flat. So I would then position that as when the actual thing has happened. So whether that's the birthday is arriving, whether it is the loss and the grief that you're describing, whether it's the change that I'm currently going through with, you know, my only baby going off and doing something different. So that's kind of autumn is where I would like to start it from.
Okay.
Then we move into winter, and it described winter as the planning, the self-reflection, the self-care stage. So you almost sort of hibernate, you
It's
hunker
like the
down.
hibernate. Yeah.
Yeah, you use that season to start to form these plans, to start to think through these changes that you want to make and put the foundations in place. Then we
Yeah.
move
I like that.
into spring, which they've described as the learning, the grasping of opportunities, the fresh buds kind of waking up. You're starting to see things slightly differently and looking for opportunities, because obviously they don't always just fall in your lap. So I think that's really useful if that kind of awakening season. And then the summer is to enjoy the rewards, the fulfillment, the relaxing, the basking in of what you've created, and then enjoy that time, because there has to be that too.
Right.
So when you're working through
Right.
that, but then inevitably, do you know what's going to happen? You're then going to find yourself in another
Back
period of change
again.
again,
Yeah.
because nothing lasts forever in that one way,
No.
does it? So what you've set up and to be enjoyed, you suddenly find doesn't suit you anymore, maybe, or you've done really well with your health, but maybe you've let that slide. So you need to wake up again and actually then think, okay, I found myself where I wasn't expecting to be. What do I need to do?
Yeah.
You know, there's so many different influences that can happen. And I thought that was really, really, that spoke to me, because I just thought exactly, I think, the sort of process that we all go through. So I've had the change, I've had my sort of autumn where I've suddenly gone, okay, worry, emotion,
Right.
fear, sort of upset, all of that. And then I'm now in that whole planning, self-reflection, self-care,
Mm-hmm.
putting my plans in place of going, so what am I going to do to make this different? And what can I, for me, what can I add and what can I do? And have some hopes, dreams, and ambitions as well, which are bigger, you know, going forward.
Mm-hmm.
And then what will happen is that next stage or that next season will start to come along. So I thought that was really useful. I thought that was a
Yeah.
very visual way as well of looking at of what you feel and what you experience.
And I like that, I think many women and, men too, especially if they're the primary caregiver, when the children aren't there any longer, they're definitely in a place where they could, because I know that they've given so much of themselves to their kids that now they're in a place where they can, okay, well, maybe I, can do some things for myself. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know, join a gym, go on a trip, whatever it is,
I've
doesn't,
experienced talking to people, there seems to be two different camps, and neither one of them are wrong. But there's the parent who probably I feel more aligned with. So almost the slight sort of grief of thinking my baby is no longer a baby, and all of those things which I didn't realize I was enjoying or I found really difficult, because obviously you look at everything with rose tinted spectacles, but all of that, you've gone through that, and now it's another change, and there's loads of different things that's to look forward to, but there is an element of sadness that sits with that
mm-hmm.
change. And then there's the other camp that are in a world of fantastic, now I can do this and now I can do that, and I'm really raring to go, now I've got all this new time. And then there's a blend in the middle, of course.
And I think that there's can be a transition, like you could initially feel
I
one
think
and
that's
then feel the other.
exactly. And I think that's where I have positioned myself. And I still have moments of, I can have a little tear over, like, oh, do you remember when? And just because I'm a very emotional person. But that doesn't now mean that I can't also see the different things that I can do, grasp the opportunities, and fully create a new routine, because that's also very required, which I think in
Right.
any situation, someone that's lost a job, the reality of the practicality of that their daily routine is going to look very different for a while, because where they've
Mm-hmm.
been used to getting up at a certain time, go driving to a certain place or logging on at a certain time, all of a sudden that requirement isn't there, is it? And so
Mm-hmm.
I think you find yourself flailing a little bit, a bit lost, don't you, thinking, well, I don't know what to do, because I've
Right.
done whatever it is for so
But
long that I don't
yeah.
know how to do that now.
And I think that's the same with a marriage too,
Yeah.
and I always remember it was I taught a cooking class and there was a judge who was in his 70s. He's about 73, I think, around there. And he had been married for 50 years and had recently got divorced. And so he decided that he was a retired judge, he was going to take some trips, do some cooking classes. He loved food, loved to cook, hadn't often had the time. But he said initially it was quite jarring, even though, it was I think a mutual thing. You wonder that at 50 years, but I was like, all the power to you for being brave enough to do that, but he was now, the dust was settling, and he was now coming out of that period and was finding all these fabulous things that he was going to do. I had said, when my ex-husband and I split, we'd been together for like 5.5 years. It felt like I'd had a limb removed a bit. I could just felt like I'd be somewhere and like there'd be this void here.
Missing.
Yeah, it was so weird. But you have to dig deep and be brave. That was my decision to do that, because it was an abusive relationship, not physically, but mentally. And you have to push through that. And then you have to push through the part of, oh God, did I do the right thing? Or feeling bad when they're going through whatever it is that they're going through, which then put me through that for 14 months. But, it's all histrionics now. But I just was, God, I had to dig deep. And, I've said this before on here, the thing that got me through that period was exercising. Every single day I walked. I walked. And that saved my sanity. So I think that anybody going through a major change, moving, that's another thing. Just give it time to let the dust settle and acclimate with this new season in your life, because, change is difficult for, like I said, for a lot of people. So you're not going to immediately embrace it. I think it's really important, especially if somebody's moved, whether it's moved house, maybe in the same city, or moved countries, moved, states, whatever, provinces, counties, but not to compare. And I think that's what a lot of people do when they do move through these seasons and have these big changes, is that as they keep looking at, like you said, a bit like with rose-colored glasses, or maybe it was better. But I think comparing, as we've said before, that's the comparison, isn't that like
the thief of joy? Yeah.
I
agree with that.
It's awful listening to people that say, oh, where I was so much better than here. And I've been really mindful as somebody that has, lived in other countries, and had many people ask me, which country did you like? What's your favorite? I mean, you take things from all of them, but I've been really mindful to try not to say, well, yeah, Australia was so much better, or Canada was so much better, or the US is. But when I go home to Australia, I don't do that, and compare it to the US.
I was going to say that I think that competition is never healthy either. Because I think sometimes when you're going through something, someone else can say, yes, I went through that too, and it was so much worse, or either worse, or they coped with it better. And there's always that element of, well, either I should feel really grateful that it's not as bad as them, or I should feel really rubbish about the fact that I'm not coping as well as them. I think just comparison in total, and then the competition.
Or maybe they should just shut up and not try giving advice.
But people will, because that's just the way it is. And so you have to take it upon yourself. And I was just thinking, as you're describing all of those situations there where people find themselves in a season of change, every single time that comes down to you personally to make those changes for yourself. And the same as we've said in every single episode, really one theme in or another is the fact that you have to take accountability for this change. And that doesn't remove the fact that the emotion is big, and it doesn't remove the fact that sometimes you feel very clouded and can't see a way out, but
or a bit cut like off, lonely too, I think,
lonely
sometimes.
And a bit embarrassed, the fact that you feel like that, maybe a bit like, well, I should be coping better, or I shouldn't be feeling this way. You forget all of that. And if you think back to that description of each of those seasons, one of the season is exactly that, is in it's supposed to be like that. The frustration, the worry, the flat feeling.
Uncomfortable.
There's a designed uncomfortable season for you to go through. But what I love is, and I find this with so many different things in life, is I actually love that grungy season in a way. Not that you love it when you're in it, but when you come out of it, don't you feel fabulous? Don't you feel
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh my
Yeah.
God, wow, I'm sort of emerging from that season or that
And
moment.
aren't I clever that I got myself through that?
Yeah, and actually we've talked about this before, but I don't think we talked about on the podcast. But it's a bit like when I go out. If I'm going out in the evening, I love to feel really, really crappy, grungy during the
Oh, right,
day.
beforehand. Yeah.
Yeah, because then
Greasy
when you go
hair,
and
no makeup,
shower, yeah, like really, really
the
at your worst.
transformation.
Because you feel fabulous when you suddenly go,
Hmm.
wow, I look good. Because compared to how I looked at 9 o'clock this morning, this is
Right.
pretty good. I actually always really quite enjoy that. If I look put together during the day, I'd be like, nah, well, by the time
Everybody
I go
likes a
out,
good before and after, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So this is the same within your life. I think that I've written down some things you get to review. So during this season of change, you get to review your finances because maybe
Hmm.
you had to take a re-look at those because of different things that
Especially
happen.
if they got divorced, or getting divorced, or you
Lots of
want to get
reasons for that,
divorced or something.
with a
Somebody
child going off.
died.
Yeah, loss,
Yeah.
change of job, um, even a child going off to college or university, there's a big impact financially to you
Hmm.
left at home. So you have to have a review of that. There's so many things that affect that,
Hmm.
or, the economy
Job.
changes, everything. Yep. So
Yeah.
finances, your
Yeah.
time, you get to have a really good review of your time. What
Hmm.
you enjoy, I think that's really good to have a proper think about and think, okay, what do I enjoy
Because
that
that
I'd like to
changes
do
too,
more of?
doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. What you want to do, so ambitions and goals and
Yeah.
things like that, is a good time to reflect on that.
I
Your
missed one.
routine,
I'm writing them down.
you're right then. Which one
What
did
was
you
it?
miss? I got
Finances,
finances, time,
time. That's it.
what you
Yes.
enjoy, what you want
Yep.
to do, so your ambitions and
Yeah.
goals. Your routines, I think they change
Hmm.
dramatically when
Yes.
your circumstances have changed.
Yeah.
And the urgency behind things. And I think that comes up particularly with
Right.
like a milestone birthday, particularly. I think we always get that, don't we? You sort of think, oh God, I'm going to reach
It's how
whatever
I'm
it is.
feeling a
Mhm.
bit, I have to say, because I'm like, and really, you can do things at any age, so I shouldn't feel like that.
No, but
But
it
I
feels
kind of
like it
think,
sort of
oh,
urges
Lovoni,
you on a
why
bit.
haven't you done it by
Mm,
now? And then I think, well, it just hasn't been the right time.
yeah.
Or, well, it would be if you just make it
Did this,
happen.
this, and this. Yeah,
This,
exactly.
this. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I think those things are always really good to keep in mind when you've gone through a different season, and
Hmm.
also quite nice just to feel like when you've got them organized, so as you've gone through your spring, as you've done your learning and grasping, and then you get to enjoy your summer season where you can just enjoy the fruits of your labor. Just
Right,
have a
right.
bit of a thing. Just think, okay, these are the sorts of things that I want to feel like when I'm in my summer season, so what do I need to get organized now to help me feel like that then?
Right.
um and some of it is just to allow yourself to go with the flow as well, isn't it, knowing that
I
this
think
cycle is
especially
going to happen.
initially,
Yeah.
yeah. I one of the things that I had noted that so I moved from Australia in December to Canada.
Right.
So summer, where it was 42 degrees Celsius the day that I moved,
Hmm.
to Canada, where it was minus 20 Celsius
Oh my
to
God.
Edmond, yeah, to Alberta. And I never experienced that before, and the snow, there was so much snow, but I had decided really early on that I was still going to get out and do stuff. If
Hmm.
I needed to go to the bank and it was snowing, I would still go to the
Go.
bank because I thought I'm in a place where it snows for like 8 months of the year. I have to
Yep.
embrace this. I
Yep.
can't let it eat me away. So, I mean, that took me a while to get used to, but that's allowing yourself that time
It's sitting with
to
it,
get used
embracing
to
it,
it.
and yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
think so.
finding things to love about it because there's something quite spectacular about
I wrote
the
that down
snow
actually. I thought
in
that
Canada.
there's emotion that comes with all of the changes that we've just sort of talked about, but getting a handle of that is finding something enjoyable in it. So a bit like you going
Hmm.
from one thing to another. What a change of situation to be in, where it's
Right.
snowing and a completely unknown world for you. So
Hmm.
embracing that
So unknown. Yeah.
and use it to light a fire under you for some action. So
Hmm.
but those emotions that you're feeling and that change that you're experiencing, you've got a kind of a choice, and it's so hard to control that emotion sometimes because it doesn't feel like a choice, particularly if you're feeling low or feeling depressed. It doesn't feel like you have a choice.
Yeah.
But actually, apart from the chemical of a depression aside, but outside of that, you do have a choice in how you're going to approach it, and you do have a choice about the actions and the changes you're going to make. And it may be you have no choice over losing your job, and it may be that you have no choice even trying to find another one because it's bloody hard, but what you do have is a choice of your mindset over it. And those are the things that I think if we can get a grasp of, and you try to put a positive action in place, it doesn't mean
Find something.
just find
Find
something.
some sort of positive.
Yeah.
If you move, and I just know somebody that, moved from a different state to here in Indiana, and they often complain about seafood, this, that, and the other. And I'm thinking, okay, it's the Midwest. They do pork here very well.
Yeah.
Beef, or I don't know, just don't buy seafood. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
you have to find, it's beautiful. It's beautiful in autumn here. Find the things to
Yeah.
embrace. The people are nice. It's not expensive to live. Crime isn't awful. Things like that. Beautiful homes. Like, find some stuff, even just one little thing, and hold on to that. Because,
And when
and
you
stop nitpicking things, because
yeah,
when you do that, it
it brings you
exacerbates
down.
that shitty feeling. Yeah.
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 And I think in that is doing things for yourself as well, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So a bit like my crafting right now, there's no one else that's going to see what I've done from regards to sort of making it feel nice for myself. But that wasn't for someone else. It was for
Right.
me because
Yes.
I wanted to enjoy it. I like the way it feels. And I'm a
Mm-hmm.
firm believer in making these little milestones through the year and enjoying them, because do you know what? The time passes anyway. And you can have got through a whole 12 months and thought, oh,
Mm-hmm.
so why not, if it makes you happy, embrace those little things and get, like you've done, really lovely decorations out that you love and it's for you.
Mm-hmm.
Me carving a pumpkin and decorating it how I like to do, in all honesty, it's going to be 2 days and it'll be gone. But so what? It wasn't about having the thing, it's about the process that you were enjoying.
Mm.
And I
Doing
think,
something for yourself.
yeah, that's really important. So when you're finding yourself in this moment of having to embrace the change, then I would just, yeah, invest in yourself is always a good thing to start with, a good starting
And
point.
being aware of where your thoughts go. And we've often talked about
Yeah.
this, that if you are going down that comparison road,
Mm-hmm.
or being pessimistic, or, oh, there's not as much space, or I don't have the storage space, or this, that, and that, maybe look at it. Good time to purge then, if
Yeah.
it is something like
Mm-hmm.
that. Or if you've gone through a divorce, maybe it's a good time to join something and make some new friends or whatever. Just put yourself out there. But, do it little by little, but don't like furnish a rut if you're in
Mm-hmm.
that,
Yeah.
so you still might have to push yourself a little bit, but just be aware of how you're thinking,
Yeah.
because
I
change
agree.
is inevitable, and how you approach it really is going to govern the aftermath,
Yeah.
it'll
Yeah.
it'll govern your happiness and all of that. Hey, have you got a challenge
I
for us this
have.
week,
Get
Sarah?
ready, everybody. So, your
Yes.
challenge this week is to grab a book or a notepad or something, but something you could keep would be nice. And think back. So, number one, think back to times when you have felt that you've been through a different season and how you've worked through it. What did you do as a matter of change? Because you may not even realize what you've done. So that's what I want you to do first, is have a good reflect back at the different seasons that you found yourself going through. And then on the other side of the page, or on a fresh page, think about the season that you're currently in and what you're going to do every day to embrace that. Now, that might mean you're in any one of those four that we've already
Right.
outlined. I'm not saying it has to be that you're in your autumn season or your sticky season. You can be in any one of those seasons for you. But what are you doing to fully embrace the season that you're in?
Right. I
And I
like that.
think that would give us real clarity into making sure that
Mm-hmm.
we're making the most of every single opportunity that we've got around us. And even if you're in the autumn where you're finding it frustrating and worrying flat, be kind to yourself, embrace yourself, look after yourself, some self-care. that can be for that season, ready to move you through to the next one of the sort of reflection and action planning.
No, that's a very good challenge. I like
so there
that.
You go. That's our challenge for today.
That's really good. Next week, we are discussing dopamine. What is it? Its functions, its symptoms, too much, too little. A hormone and a neurotransmitter. Dopamine is known as the feel-good chemical that plays a key role in functions such as movement, behavior, focus, learning, mental health, motivation, and emotions. How do you know if your dopamine level is optimal? Please join us next week for our dopamine episode.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. Be sure to check out our website for new posts each week as we dive deeper into each episode. Find links to our Instagram and YouTube channel in the show notes below, and don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss an episode. Lovoni and I truly appreciate your support, and so until next week, bye for now.
Bye for now, and happy Halloween or post-Halloween.
Oh, happy Halloween. Bye.
Bye.